G'day, I'm Lucky Phil. 2 months ago I showed you some ways to make your Windows reinstall less painful. Today I have some free files to help you diagnose potential problems, as well as to help you keep your system running happily. TCP view from sysinternals is very similar to the DOS command netstat in that it allows you to see what programs are making a connection to the internet as well as what's waiting for an incoming connection. The main benefit of TCP view over netstat is that it allows you to see what's going on in real time. At the moment it's in the default view in that it is currently showing me what programs are making a connection right now as well as what's waiting for an incoming connection. If I disable the option to show unconnected endpoints, it only shows what connections are happening right now. It doesn't show what's waiting for an incoming connection. Notice how as I launch Firefox, new connections are created, and as I kill Firefox, these connections are destroyed. If I disable the option to resolve addresses, it converts the addresses that we see right here to IP addresses. Now I'm not going to do that now because if I do, this will expose my IP address. Auto runs, also from sysinternals, allows you to see what programs and processes start up with your computer, and it gives you great control over this process. Some of the things you can disable with this are drive indexing, power management, Windows Genuine Advantage, drivers, networking options, logon properties, spyware, adware, Windows Genuine Advantage, rogue applications, viruses. Oh, did I mention Windows Genuine Advantage? Yeah, so far I've only used this program for one thing, but if I had nasty stuff on my computer which I needed to kill off during system launch, then this is definitely the program that I would use for that. Unlocker is a small program that does one thing very well, and that's unlock files and folders so you can move them or delete them. In the past, if you've gone to move or delete a file or folder and for some reason Windows thinks it's already being used, when you know for a fact it's not, the only thing you could do would be to try restarting the computer, try booting in a safe mode, try booting to a command prompt, and try your luck there, and even then the results are never guaranteed. Now, usually the time you would need to use something like this is if you have some adware, spyware, viruses running in the background, and to clean up your system you need to delete certain things that are currently running. This is a great tool for doing that. Another time you might need this is if, for example, Microsoft Word crashes, as it has a tendency to do, and you need to unlock some files that are currently Windows thinks are still running when in fact they're not. Now, for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to intentionally open a video file, and while it's playing, I'm going to delete it. We'll see what happens. Okay, you can see at the moment this video file is playing, and if I go to delete the folder that file is in, it tells me that it can't do so. Now, if I right-click that file and I go to Unlocker, it says to me, hey, that file's currently being used. Would you like to unlock this? If I tell it to unlock everything inside that folder, then it allows me to delete that file and that folder. And this video window becomes as useless as tits on a bull because the file and folder are gone. CCleaner, also known as Crap Cleaner, is one of those programs that's really great on several levels. It allows you to free up space. It also allows you to clean up your tracks for privacy reasons, as well as fix certain issues on your computer. In the cleaner section of the program, it allows you to analyze what stuff can safely be removed, and once it does that, it allows you to remove it. Just taking a few seconds. Also, my capturing doesn't help these speed issues. And quick as a flash, it allows me to free up that space. Run it again just to be sure, and that stuff that I got rid of is gone. In the Issues section, it allows you to scan your system's registry for issues. And once the scan's finished, those issues can be resolved. As you can see, most of the issues that it sorts out are pretty commonsensical. Nothing too dangerous or drastic being done here. And once you do that, you can fix up those problems. Of course, maybe I should read what's going on. Okay, fix all selected issues. Done. Now, sometimes it can take 2 or 3 goes to make sure all the issues have been resolved. But just by running this program through both the cleaner mode and the issues mode, I have noticed significant performance increases in my system, as well as improved system stability. WinDirstat allows you to see at a glance what files are taking up the greatest amount of space on your hard drive. If I select the D drive and go into it, you can see at the moment it's currently analysing the folders on my drive. And then once it's done, at a glance, you can see what is taking up which proportion of space. As you can see, there's a bunch of Who's Line episodes here, a bunch of Penn and Teller bullshit, one of the greatest shows on TV. And so, at a glance, we can see what's taking up the most amount of space. And if you want to, you can delete the files straight from this program. Obviously, I don't want to do that right now. The show notes for this segment, as well as everything else on our show, can be found at our website, that's www.BSoDtv.org. Also, if you have any feedback or indeed segment ideas, please fire them off our way. You can do so either on the contact page of our website or by joining us in IRC on the server irc.bsodtv.org in the channel BSoD.
I've been doing a lot of talking about phone phreaking and telecommunication, and I really never explained how the system works. I mean, that's what phone phreaking is all about. It's about exploring and understanding the telephone system, not just ripping it off. So, let's get started on that. I mean, I've already explained, numbering plans, and I've explained, some of the basic technology, dialing plans and prefixes and suffixes and all that mumbo-jumbo, all that jazz. I've also showed you some really nice phreaking software that, lets you do some interesting things. Let's set the way back when machine to the 20s and the 30s, 1920s, 1930s. The telephone system comprised of pretty much a patch board. A patch board is just a board with a whole bunch of wires and jacks that are rewired on the fly by people. To place a call, you pick up your phone, you tap the headset a couple of times, and it blinked a little light right by your jack. So the operator would plug in her headset, and she'd ask you where you want it, what number you're dialing. You'd tell her, she'd call the other person, she'd ring it, and, if they were there, she'd literally plug the 2 lines together. Now, if that's not a shit job, I don't know what is. I mean, sitting there waiting for lights to blink all day and, plugging cables in, boring as fuck. Not the pinnacle idea of efficiency. So, down the road, they figured, hey, let's make something a little bit better. Let's try to, electronics is coming down in price, and, it's becoming more available and things are becoming faster. Let's take our whack at an electronically controlled mechanical system, which was Crossbar. Crossbar was basically what it did was it's the first implementation of rotary or pulse dialing. Basically, when you pick up the phone nowadays, or even back then, when you pick up the phone, there are resistors inside that phone that equal or exceed 680 ohms. So what happens is the phone company can then detect that you've picked up the phone. So when the phone is off hook, or when you're in call, okay, on hook is not in use, off hook is in use. When it's off hook, the voltage is roughly 5 to 10 volts. Keeping in mind that the longer your string of copper, like the longer your copper wire is, the more resistance it's going to have. So if you have a wire that's 9-10 miles long, of course it's going to have more resistance. So between 5 and 8 volts. When you put the phone on the hook and it's not in use, the voltage shoots up to about 48 volts. When the phone rings, it's roughly 90 to 110 volts. It's not enough to kill you. If you're working on your line or someone else's and a call comes in, it's not going to kill you, but you're going to know someone called. I mean, there were times where I'm splicing wires with my teeth and the phone rang and it shot my ass across the kitchen. Was it my kitchen? Either way. So, pulse dialing basically breaks the line in sequence. So if you want to dial 9, it breaks it 9 times. If you dial 3, it breaks it 3 times. Some of the first phone freaks, what they did was they created zipper dial or zip dial, where basically, keeping in mind this is an all-mechanical system. I mean, granted the, talking and all that's electronic, the actual physical breaking the line was a mechanical system. What they did was they reworked the mechanics so it would dial faster, because rotary was slow as shit. It was horrible. If it was an emergency, forget about it. So what they did was they made it go faster, which was, the first form of phone freaking. But, because it was a mechanically switched network, I mean, it was literally, instead of people, there were relays and arms that would shift and readjust. Creepy crawlies and critters would actually go inside the machinery and get ground up into paste, or, just because of, bad weather, humidity, or for whatever natural reasons or unnatural reasons, the equipment would fail physically. It would literally break down, just like a car would. And, the amount of time, like, replacing, fixing, and maintaining it just sucked. So, time goes on. We're in the 40s to 50s. Okay, now we're, like, in the 50s, between the 50s and 60s. You go, hey, electronics and the integrated circuit, transistors, ooh, fun, whoop-de-doo. So they said, let's take a whack at replacing this mechanical system with an electrical system. And basically what they did is they created a system that it count the pulses, but the equipment that would actually route the calls from exchange to exchange, it was relatively electronic. And this is where multi-frequency, or MF, comes in, and the days of the blue box, and the days of in-band signaling. When you have one exchange to another exchange, you have a system called a trunk. A trunk is just a link between those two systems. That trunk would constantly whistle a frequency of 2600 hertz. So it'd sit there, and when it's not in use, it's whistling. And when you pick up the phone and you'd rotary out your number, what the central office would do, or what the exchange would do, was communicate to that trunk using multi-frequency tones to control the trunk, and then the trunk would then connect to the exchange. Now, it might not always be one trunk. You could have multiple trunks, nut to butt, to go and place a call, which is like a tandem of trunks. So, what happened was, back in the day of the Blue Box, Captain Crunch, Joe and Grecia, all of those great people that all those movies and stories were written and told about, figured out ways of using an electronic device, or even whistling. Blind Joe and Grecia, a man who I'd love to shake his hand, he could whistle into the phone system, and he had perfect pitch. He'd be able to control the system just by whistling. I mean, that's awesome. That is hardcore right there, just picking up the phone. In fact, I have some footage. I'll try to splice it in. I don't know how good it is, so forgive me if it sucks.
If you had perfect pitch like blind phone freak Joe and Grecia, you could whistle calls through the network.
Let's see if I make it this time. This is really hard to do. It sounded like all the tones were present, so the phone should be ringing about now. Okay, it hit the phone. It just takes a little while.
He even showed off his skills for the local media.
From his one phone to a town in Illinois and back to his other phone, a 1,000-mile phone call by whistling. Joe Ingressia says he used to do these things because he is fascinated by the technology.
Okay, so you have a blue box device that's used to create the controlling tones of the trunks, the tandems, and the switching equipment. So the problem with this was when you're in a call, the computer system doesn't know the trunks, the tandems, the mainframes, the COs, the exchanges. They don't know that these tones are not coming from its own equipment. It doesn't realize it's coming from a user. And that allowed people to do whatever the hell they wanted. I mean, anything they wanted. And of course, with any kind of technology, there's always going to be some juvenile prick to abuse it. So nonetheless, the phone company kind of got, sick and tired of all these juvenile, phone freaks doing damage to their systems, shutting things down, setting things up, damned near like godlike things. They were doing some pretty cool stuff. So the phone company said, okay, we need to get control of this. What are we going to do? Technology's proved, this is the 70s-ish, kind of between the 70s and 80s. And ESS was born, Electronic Switching Systems. ESS was implemented in the late 70s, but it really didn't phase out until, like Crossbar and CCIT5, or CCIT, whatever version you've got, until about the late 80s. Basically, what happens now is when you pick up the phone, you have a dial tone, in the same fashion of, resistors in the phone tell the office that you've picked up your phone, they apply a dial tone, and now you use DTMF, dual tone multi-frequency. And by now, if you're into phone freaking, you should understand what DTMF is. And the computer would decode the DTMF tones, and it would turn that DTMF into controllable actions. So, one area code number, prefix, suffix, all that jazz that I've previously explained comes into play now. However, this is the era of a digital technology, hence electronic switching system. Basically, when you pick up the phone and you talk into your phone, it sends your voice down a copper pair via analog audio, hits the mainframe, and gets turned into what we call PCM data, pulse control modulated data. PCM data is most commonly used today in CD audio. So using PCM data, it's now a digital data stream. Now, the same channel that your voice is in, it's the control channel and the voice channel are separate. So that basically means, you can't have a magic device that you play into the headset of a phone to control the equipment, because one, it's not analog, and two, you're not even on that same channel. So your voice data and your control data are going down separate lines. So even if you had some kind of magical device that would create audio waves that would translate once digitized into PCM data, would have the equivalent of the digital language, the digital packets of control data, it doesn't matter. It's not going down the right line. Now, one of the great things with ESS was everything's digital now, and I mean everything. Keeping in mind we're in the mid '80s by now, and the central offices and the mainframes were actually linked using ISDN, or ISDN lines can handle anywhere up to 128K, but normally they keep it around 64. So instead of having one copper pair for every single line that needs to go between office and office, they actually have an ISDN line which can handle a couple of lines. So if one copper pair, two wires, can carry an ISDN, a digitized ISDN signal of 128K, and each phone call required only 8K of bandwidth, do the math. How many calls can you place? So you needed less physical wires, and everything was digitized. Plus, outband signaling was now phased out. No one can use the blue box. So bye bye blue box. Nice knowing you. Now, with ESS also comes the advent of ANI and ANAC and automated services and touch tone, a whole bunch of great services. Now, go boot down the line a little bit. Mid to late 80s, SS7 came out, or Switching Signaling Number 7, which is a set of signaling protocols which are used to set up the vast majority of the world's networking, our telephone network. The telephone network at this point is considered PSTN, or a packet switch telephone network. Now, back in the old days, it was POTS, plain old telephone service. You pick up the phone, you got a dial tone, do some pulse dialing, make a call. Now we're packet switched. Everything's digital. Now, to get everything to conform to standards, they created the SS7. Now, at this point, they were also making something called the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union. So all of you people that really do enjoy my phone freaking segments would say, wow, I wish this would work here. The only thing that's different nowadays between system and system is your dialing plan. That is it. The way the systems work, where the systems come from, who makes them, and how they're set up are all exactly the same all across the world. So, SS7 was basically a set of codecs and protocols and compression schemes, and basically how to put a uniform telecommunication system together. It also added It can do more ISDN lines. It has faster transfer rates, but mainly it was a set of protocols. The only bad part of SS7 is it was really not backwards compatible with anything else. So if you had an ESS system, like say an ESS5, and you had a SS7 signaling system, you could only talk to other SS7s. However, this is when the whole world was basically becoming, one, the International Telecommunications Union. So, after a while, shit got better, computers got faster, bit rates increased, and that's where you have the DMS system, the digital multiplex system, which was mainly active in the early 90s, even still today, DMS. What's great about DMS is it can actually incorporate cell phones. You can actually, okay, I've got a DMS system attached to an ESS system, and then plugged into the DMS, we're going to have, we'll have ADSL, we'll have cellular, we'll have voicemail, we'll have, ISDN, we'll have, a whole bunch of great stuff, faster speeds, more features. The thing about the DMS system is it's highly configurable, and it uses something called the digital signal level. Now, the digital signal level, or the DS level, will determine how much bit rate can be pumped, in and out of that DMS. Now, SS7, I do believe, can handle tier lines, or T1, T2, Tier 3. Tier 1 being 1.5 meg, T3, I believe, is 3 meg, so on and so on. But you know what? You need more bandwidth for more calls, so the DMS system can actually handle something called fiber optic. Not only can it handle the tier systems, but it can also handle fiber optic connections, or OCs. OCs are considered a synchronous optical network, or a SONET. Now, a synchronous optical network, or it's literally just another type of mainframe and packet technology that just plugs in to the DMS technology. Now, an OC connection can go just as slow as about 52 megs per second, all the way up to about 9,000 megs per second. I mean, it varies. The OC24 can do 1,243 point something megabit per second, and the OC90 does 4,970. And those two are mostly used as the backbones for small ISPs. Large ISPs use the OC192 at 9,955 meg per second. I'm rounding off. I don't know exact numbers anymore, but it does go faster than that. Now, the OC connections are basically what nowadays we use to interconnect office to office. So basically, the optical connections are actually better than copper because it doesn't have as much signal loss. Also, it can handle higher bandwidth, and it doesn't erode over time like copper. So this is just some of the signals. Basically, we've been doing voice over IP since the 80s and the early 90s. So when you pick up your phone and you call, your voice is being turned into a digital signal with a codec, compressed, sent down the line, and digitally transferred from office to office, through trunk system, from exchange to exchange, and then converted back into audio. Same thing you do with Ventrilo, Skype, or your other, favorite voice over IP software. Now, everyone's on this new voice over IP craze, but you don't realize that the voice over IP technology that's just hitting us today is just a variant of what has already been existing since the 80s. I mean, the technology is probably older than I am, and everyone's like, oh yeah, voice over IP, voice over IP. If you're on a DSL network, which DSL is also another capability of the DMS system, if you're on a DSL network or an ISDN, or if you're on a regular dial-up, doesn't matter. That digital data is going straight over to the exchange. It's going over to the central office as digital data. So why are they charging you so much money to go and turn your voice into digital data using voice over IP when the phone company's doing it already for you? Maybe because the phone company is a big, huge-ass corporation that's run by money-hungry gluttons that the only thing they want to do is line their pockets with silver and gold. I don't know. But this is just some of the underlying technologies. I did cover a lot. I went over it very briefly. There's a lot more to it, but I'm not going to throw too much numbers at you. I'm not going to throw too much info at you at once. If you want to know more about this, I will definitely have a lot more detailed and structured video. Just goes to show you I don't script shit. I'll have a lot more information in the show notes. Check the website. You can also start talking about this on the forums. I'd like to see more activity on the forums if possible. Or if you really want to go talk to a telephone tough guy, we do have IRC chat, which you can access through the website, or you can get your favorite IRC client and chat with all of us.
In this segment, I'm going to be showing you how to unlock Nokia and Motorola phones using pretty easy to use, freely available software. First, I'm going to start off with the Nokias. You open up Firefox and go to unlock.nokiafree.org, which it is a web-based unlocker. You can unlock it from your PDA if you have one that has internet access, from your computer, wherever. What you do first is you get the IMEI out of your phone. To do that, you just hit *#06# anytime the phone's turned on at the keypad, and it will give you the IMEI if it's a GSM phone. And you just enter that in there. Then you select the network that your phone is locked to. This is pretty important, but if your network isn't listed, just choose the country. The gen you usually don't have to worry about. It'll automatically set that up. And you select your model. And if your model is not listed here, use the closest one. For example, the Nokia 6680 is not listed, but the codes for the 6600 will work for the 6680. And then all you have to do from there is click Get Nokia DCT4 Unlock Codes. That's for newer phones. For older phones, you're going to want to come down here to the DCT3 calculator, enter the IMEI, get the same way you did before, network, the same as before, and this time you don't even have to select your model, just click Get the Codes. It's kind of hard to see this button, it's blocked by the ads, but you can use ad block or whatever. Next is Nokia Free has a piece of software that you can download, for example if you don't have internet access, and their calculator is a little easier to use and it has a lot more models. Here you can select a couple different brands, and we're just going to go Nokia for now, and then you select your model. As you can see, there are a lot more models in this list than there were in the list on the site, so you may want to download this program anyway if your model is not on the site, if you want to do it model specific. Then you enter your IMEI, same as before. You select the country, and then you would select the carrier down here. I haven't selected a country, so it won't show me any carriers, and then all you do is hit calculate, and in this box over here, it'll tell you what the codes are and how to enter them. For example, some Nokia codes have a P, and to access the P, you, I believe, have to hit the star key twice. Next is Motorola phones. As you can see, this program has a lot of unlockers and software for a lot of different phones. Ericsson's, Bosch, Mitsubishi, Panasonic. We're going to go, like I said, Motorola. For most phones, you're going to want to use the V80, V220, E380, C450, and C650 unlocker. It may not have your model listed, but that will work for almost every triplets phone, basically the V300, V600, V551, and it will also work for the Razr. Now also, if your phone is an older phone and listed in any of the other items on here, just use that. Now all you do is you select the program, you click start, and now it wants you to put your phone into flash mode manually. I showed you how to do this in my last segment, but just in case you missed it, you hold down the star key on your phone, the pound key, and then turn your phone on, and it will be in flash mode. And then all you have to do is push this button that says connect phone in flash mode, and it will connect your phone and begin the unlock process.
I want to introduce you to something I like to call lobotomizing the NES. Basically, it's really not hacking, it's more of an exploration. Really, you're not doing anything super useful. Basically what you're doing is you're going to run an emulator on your PC or console. Now, I don't want to hear any shit about emulation being illegal. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. The NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, is damn near as old as I am. And if Nintendo wants to still make money off the NES, bitch to someone else. I really don't care. Don't want to hear it. So, and I also don't want to hear, Fox, where do I get ROMs? Fox, where do I get emulators? Use Google. I'm not going to help you. Okay, default disclaimer, blah, 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 blah. Emulation could be a crime, blah, blah, blah. Emulation could be copyright infringement, blah, blah, blah. DMCA can blow me, blah, blah, blah. Don't steal stuff, blah, blah, blah. Peer-to-peer is from Satan, blah, blah, blah. Newsgroups rock. BitTorrent blows. So, anyway, you're going to fire up a ROM, or a cartridge image of the game on your computer, and using an emulator, such as Nest 10 or FCE for Windows. I'm not into the emulation for Mac or Linux. Just Google it. There are emulators. What we're going to do is we're going to poke around the memory addresses, essentially creating cheat codes. But those cheat codes will then allow us to explore further into the memory and do interesting things. Some of the interesting things is, in Duck Hunt, when you reach level 99 of the game, as soon as you reach level 100, there's a buffer overflow, and weird shit happens. There are just weird things you can do in Super Mario Bros. 3. There are whole levels that have been unused and whole worlds that just were left in the game but unfinished. You can go in and access them. So this is why I call it lobotomizing the NES. You're going into the memory with a hot red poker and you're poking around, seeing what does what and how the game's put together. You have to understand different computer number systems. In decimal, it's base 10, meaning we have 10 digits, 0 to 9. 0 is a digit. Now, 0 is a digit because let's say if we have 99, we have 2 places. However, if we have 109, we have nothing to take up the 0 before the 0 that's in between 1 and 9. In the computer systems, we have binary, where there's only 1 and 0. And in binary, we don't have digits, we have bits. Just a 1 or a 0. Now, depending on how many bits you can have will determine how large you can count up to. If you have 1 bit, you can only count up to 1. If you have 2 bits, you can count up to 3. And so on and so on. I'll give a little tutorial. If you're interested in this, I'll have a tutorial on the show notes on binary number systems, and there's also hex number system. It's base 16. It doesn't go from 0 to 9. It goes from 0 to 9, then A to F. It's a 16-digit long numbering system, base 16. I'll give tutorials about that on the show notes if you're interested. But let's get into the emulator, which I'm going to have on the PC and on my Xbox. I'll explain those reasons while we're doing our lobotomization of the NES. I fired up an NES emulator on my Xbox. The reason I plan on using this emulator for the segment primarily is because I enjoy having my hands on a controller that can start and stop the emulator as faster than I can actually think. Basically, it's just a natural reaction to stop it. You have to understand that we'll be comparing and contrasting memory values, and seconds do count when you're doing stuff with timers and whatnot. So let's select a game. We'll do Super Mario Brothers, the original one for NES. We'll start up a game. One-player game. The first thing we'll hunt down is the address for time. So we'll go to our cheat codes and start the search. Basically, the emulator has just memorized every single memory address and all of their values. That way we can compare and contrast. Now, we waited 2 seconds. The time is going down pretty quick, so we go to our cheat codes. Can you continue search for less than before? Okay, we're down to 15. Okay, 2 seconds on the timer have passed on the ones counter. Continue search, less than before. We're down to 5. 2 seconds have passed by. We're going to do it again. We are down to 3. Okay, we'll add it to the list because sometimes, remember, this is pretty much hit or miss. There might be the possibility that you missed the code because you compared and contrasted incorrectly. Okay, so we have a value of decimal 64, value of decimal 47, and decimal of 5. Well, the last time I looked, the counter was at either 5 or 6. Keeping in mind, 0 is a number.
Okay? Now, the way this cheat code system is actually enabled, the way it works is, if a cheat code starts with 30, it says lock the 8-bit value of the 8-bit address at the current value. So if I enable this, it's going to lock address 07FA to a value of 5. And there we go. It's locked. So, go through our game. And it's locked at 5. Well, 4, but keeping in mind that 0 is a number. Okay, let's go to our cheat code, start search for a new for the new code. Let's do lives. So, whoop, I'm dead. Well, apparently, it's less than before. Cheat codes, less than before. Oops, I'm dead. Okay, apparently, less than before. But notice we're not rounding these down fast enough. If you don't mind me, I'm just going to use my fast forward button in my emulator to get this going. Now, when we start a new game, notice how the value of the lives has increased. So, greater than before. We're down to 3. So, list our cheat codes. Oh, wait, you know what? It's a good idea to label these. What was this? Time ones. Oh, shit. My keyboard's not working. That sucks. Alright, fine. T-I-M-E. Okay, that's our time address. Well, this is awkward. Where are our lives? Well, maybe we didn't get them. Nope, no, here we go. Start search again. Less than before. Oh, game over. Start it up again. Greater than before. Less than before. Less than before. Okay, there's only one code left, so we'll enable this always on is this value, blah, blah, blah. Hey, look, we got 2 lives. Hey, look, we've got 2 lives. Hey, you know what? We know this is our lives, and you have to understand that this is an 8-bit system. So that means there is only possible of 255 combinations. So let's edit this to see what happens when we hit FF. Or 255. Oh, let's go die. Oh, game over. Now look at that. Isn't that weird? When you have 255 lives, the maximum value, your game is over. I wonder why that is. Alright, so we'll go to our cheat codes. Well, list them. Edit this so it's only 254? Yeah, 254. Alright. Game over. So apparently we're doing a buffer overflow right now. What's basically happening is you're overflowing into a piece of memory where it can't register how many lives you have. And this is just for one of the reasons why you should lobotomize your NES. Alright, so let's do AA. 170. What happens when you have 100 and... Oh, wait. I went too fast. Oh, and another buffer overflow. We just saw 2 more buffer overflows. We'll go to another one-player game real quick. Look, if you notice the lives, they're sprites. See, there's no actual fonts and text in NES. They're all sprites. So basically, you're doing a buffer overflow where the lives are greater than the maximum amount it can count, and it's overfilling the sprite table. But what's also happening is when you die, that same buffer overflow of when we did it to 255 is causing the game to be over. So, another interesting thing. Huh. Okay, we're going to go ahead and select Meyer Brothers. We're going to do some stuff with Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt for NES is one of these smaller games for NES, so it's really easy to find memory addresses. The first thing I want to find is the memory address for bullets. So, let's get started. Okay, we have one possible address, and we're going to enable it. We know the maximum value for bullets is 3, so we're going to enable that to 3 and see if it works. Yep, it works. Now we have infinite bullets. Second address I want to look for is the duck's flyaway time. So this is going to be another one of those you got to be quick on the button. Okay, we got 2 possible codes, which weren't... crap, I fucked up. There. We got 2 possible values. BA is for the bullet, so I'm gonna assume it's 4C. 31C looks like it's too far into memory, but I could be wrong. Let's see if this duck ever flies away. Nope, he doesn't fly away. So that other one, this one, 31C, could be the memory address to tell the game, make the screen pink and put the flyaway sprite on the screen. But either way, you know, this duck ain't going anywhere. So I can go ahead, no matter what, he ain't going nowhere. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the memory address for what level we're on. Now this is going to take a little while, so I'll just continue when I've found it. With a little bit of diligent searching, I found the memory address 00C1, which is the memory value for what level you're on. Now we're gonna do a little bit of testing. We're gonna see what happens when we bring this up to level 98. Now I know for a fact that they use hex codes. Keeping in mind that all of this over here is hex. This is not decimal. They use a hex value to determine what level you're on. It's up to the actual game on whether or not you use hex or if you use decimal. Now look, our round indicator says that we're on 3, but these ducks are moving way too fast for round 3. So this goes to show you that your memory address doesn't directly affect what you have on screen. Now, you could just accidentally find a memory address for the sprite that's displayed on the screen, but still not affect the actual value. Once we get past this round, it'll go up to level either 98 or 99. It'll actually update that value. So I'm going to go and fast forward through a little bit of this because I don't want the epileptics to complain. Okay, we should be going up to round... Oh wait, gotta turn that memory value off because... Actually, we gotta wait till the next... until it hits the register. Once it hits the register, we're on round 98. We're gonna go to our cheat codes because you gotta remember, in this emulator, any code that starts with 30 says fix this value as this address at this value. If we made it 80, it'd say when this value is equal to this, go to the next code. So using that, you can make some pretty interesting stuff. So we're going to turn this off because we're on level 98. I'm going to go and buzz right through this. If you notice, the round indicator is only 2-digit. I don't think the programmers ever designed to have a 3-digit level system, which is much like the Y2K bug, where clocks only had a 2-digit time code for the year, like 98, 99. But once you reach 2000, it's not 2000, it's 00. So software that says, hey, okay, you know, if the year is less than, say, 95, you know, these people owe us money and have this % interest for every value of difference. So, you know, weird shit was going on. Not only that, but we've also got memory overflows and buffer overflows. So it's going to be putting values into memory that it shouldn't be putting values into. I'll give a show notes to a very good IPTV show that had a beautiful example of what exactly a buffer overflow is. Okay, we're going over to what level now? Level 99. So, okay, so our round on the sprite and the value have both leveled out. I'll breeze through this real quick. I love that fast forward button on the emulator. Makes life so much quicker. Okay, we should go to round 100, right? Round 0. What happened? Hey, what the hell's going on? Hey, look at that, an awkward buffer overflow. The game just went all highball ape shit. It wasn't designed to go to round 100. So for the round, we're on round 00 in memory, and that 1 from the hundreds place spilled over to another contents. So if you were a diligent Duck Hunt player and you actually sat through all day playing 100 rounds of Duck Hunt, this is what you'd have to look forward to. But with just a little bit of NES lobotomizing, just poking around the memory address, we've got there faster, and we aren't as disappointed.